Out of the woods. We definitely have been going around in circles for the past 3 hours or so. We have lost our way in the woods, and it has gotten dark and cold. I am hungry and exhausted and freezing, and still he trudges on, convinced that he knows where we need to go, convinced that we are not, in fact, going around in circles, but that we are forging ahead. I would admire his unwavering trust in his own non existent abilities, were it not for the fact that we are lost in the woods at night and have been going around in circles for the past 3 hours. We should at the very least make camp, but he won't have any of it. Not that we have much to make camp with. He left most of our stuff in the car when we went to get the lay of the land, as he put it. And he specifically said that he knew where we were going, that he would be able to find the shed or shack or hut or whatever it's called that is hidden somewhere in the depths of this wood. I am a city dweller, always have been, same as he, and he assured me that these woods were practically made for those such as us. He also assured me that he has an amazing sense of direction, and I snorted in derision and reminded him that he frequently gets lost within an IKEA. Well, I did not say it out loud, but internally at least. I did roll my eyes, but he just chuckled and promised me that it would be all right. And, like the trusting idiot I am, I went along with it. I know for a fact that he asked several of our other friends, well, acquaintances, if they would like to come with us on this trip, and they all declined. Because it is, if we're being brutally honest, an absurdly stupid idea. The whole thing was a stupid idea even before we got lost in the woods and started to go in circles for 3 hours. It's almost baffling in its sheer, utter idiocy, even more so when taking into consideration the fact that he himself does not seem to realize just how dumb the whole thing is. I used to think he just had a few issues with self-awareness, that sometimes his inherent sense of rightness got the better of him, but at this stage I'm pretty sure he's just completely lacking in that regard. He is so desperately incapable of self-reflection that I sometimes wonder how he manages to shave in the mornings. I grin at my pun internally, but it does very little to lift my mood. I am angry. Of course I'm angry. We have been going around in circles for the past 3 hours or so. The sun has set, the wind chill has picked up, the leaves are shaking, and we did not bring any flashlights. We brought, in fact, no technology at all because he did not want us to. I think that was the final nail in the coffin for the others, even those who would, for whatever reason, willingly entrust themselves to his guidance on a weekend in a rickety wooden structure in the woods. No phones, no lights except candles, no writing utensils except pen and paper, no laptops. I think he even intended for us to bring a bow and arrow and hunt dinner ourselves, but I was able to persuade him to not do that because that would have just been the worst idea of this entire trip full of terrible ideas. And in the end, cooler heads prevailed. But we left the supplies in the car because you cannot actually drive up to the shack, you have to walk. And when I suggested to take the supplies along with us, he put his foot down. He first wanted to get the lay of the land, figure out what's actually present in this retreat of his. Apparently the prospectus mentioned something about supplies being provided. I don't know, I haven't read it. A part of me is still unsure whether that fabled wooden shed actually exists in the same reality as us and not just inside that head of his. A head full of dreams, as some might call it. A head full of shit, as others might say. I'm somewhat on the fence in that regard. He is my best friend after all, and that does mean something, or so I keep telling myself. He grew up not having many friends, and he has trouble keeping them. He's one of those who's forever rushing towards some goal, only they know, always going forward, rarely looking back. He has thousands of ideas, hundreds of projects, and he rarely inhabits the same plane of existence as the rest of us. I sometimes feel like he considers the rest of humanity beneath him in some way. Not even on purpose, it's just something that is ingrained into him. The idea that he's somehow removed from us, mere mortals. We are roommates at uni, thrown together by the whims of the housing department, and he immediately decides that that is enough to make us friends for life. Or, well, more like him gaining a free-made valet chauffeur chef for life and me going along with it for some reason. I don't think he did it on purpose or even realized what he was doing. And sure, I could have refused to do him any more favors, but it started off innocently enough, and by the time I realize what has happened, it is too late. Anyway. A branch smacks me full in the face! White stars of pain explode before my eyes, little flashes in the darkness. I stumble, nearly fall, maybe even cry out. The steps in front of me become slower than stop. I can't really see much between the tears and the darkness, but I can imagine the look he's giving me, his posture, the whole package. He actually has the audacity to let out a sigh, which conveys everything that my mental picture of him might have forgotten before asking me what's wrong. What's wrong? What's wrong? I'm starving and freezing and beyond exhausted, and we have been going around in circles for the last 3 hours because you are too stupid to find your way and too boneheaded to bring a phone or at the very least a map so we could figure out where we're supposed to be going. That is what's wrong! Well, not everything, but it's enough for the moment. I do not, of course, say that, just mutter meekly about a branch smacking me in the face and potentially breaking my nose. My voice sounds muffled, probably because of the blood running down my face. It feels like it's a lot, but I cannot check because I don't have any source of light. Well, I do have my phone with me, actually tucked away in my back pocket, flight mode turned on, so it should even have battery. The vendor promised me that this baby can run for at least 30 hours, but we all know the sad reality behind sales pitches. But I cannot actually pull out my phone because I would never ever hear the end of it. How I can never humor him, how I cannot trust him, how he can never trust me, how I never take him seriously, the whole 9 yards. Never mind the fact that he never actually gave me a reason to trust him, no matter how often I accompany him on his harebrained schemes. I need to have some sort of emergency out handy in case things go wrong, which they inevitably always do. But me smashing face first into a low-hanging branch, probably breaking my nose and losing a few teeth, does not an emergency make. Not for him anyway, and I do not want to give the game away just yet. I rub my face with my hand trying to get the blood out of my eyes, which is easily one of the dumbest things I ever did. And I do a lot of dumb things given the fact that I still follow this guy around in circles at night through the woods. I don't even know why I am trying to get the blood out of my eyes anyway, as it is extremely dark. It's not like I'm seeing any better with my eyes clear. All this and more goes through my head as I try vainly to keep up with him because, much as I hate trudging after him through the underbrush, going in circles forever, the alternative of being lost on my own is even worse. In a new city, vast and unknown, wondering why I decided to even come here. Why not study nearer to my home, or not study at all? Why move thus far away from my life, my anchors? Lying to myself, pretending like I have anchors and a life back home, pretending even I have a home. For the love of God, I have nothing. I'm all alone, lost and afraid. I have not been to a city this big in my life, and everything is too much, too loud, too close, too full, and everything is unfamiliar, and I feel like I'm drowning. Even getting to the dorm has been a chore, it being located in a far-off place of the city, away from campus and away from the center. But even out here in the fringes, everything is too much. I can't catch a breath, I can't think. I'm just floating along like a piece of driftwood thrown into the vast ocean. After navigating the janitor, get my key, I go upstairs to my room and find someone else in there. I know someone was bound to be in there. They told me as much in the letter. But seeing it in the flesh is still different. I'm stunned, taken aback. This was supposed to be a place of refuge, and now it is impossible to be on my own even here. He smiles warmly, extends a hand. I take it and shake it. Something rights itself. My world gains focus again, and for the first time today, I don't feel as lost or alone. Because now, there is someone else there. I suppose that is his gift in a way, that he can draw you in like that, make you feel welcome. Most people eventually realize that it's all smoke and mirrors and that he only plays nice if and when he knows he can get something, anything really, in return. I swear we passed this tree already, multiple times. It's one of the areas of the path where some of the moonlight actually manages to illuminate sections of it, so I have been able to consistently see this tree in particular even after the sun has set. And I know that we passed this tree already because it looks like there is a face in its bark, and I swear to God the son of a birch is laughing at us. Or maybe at me, because he knows that one of his tree friends punched me in the face earlier. I'm hesitant to use a description like deep gash, but it really feels like I have one on my forehead. But we have been walking for so long that the blood has mostly dried. Or I have just gone numb at this point, it's really hard to tell. And still, we march. He mutters to himself, of course, he would never talk to me. Why should he? And I want to scream at him to say something, anything really, to explain himself, or apologize for dragging me through these godforsaken woods at this time of night. And a part of me is somewhat impressed because he does not seem to be exhausted and freezing and starving. And then that small voice at the back of my head pipes up, and it has learned to use his cadence and his inflections. And it's telling me that maybe I am just too weak and an abject failure, and that, if anything, I should be thankful for him tolerating my company, because nobody else would be able to stand a disgusting little creature like me. And instead of complaining all the time, maybe I should suck it up, Buttercup, and just keep walking, and most importantly, trust him. He knows what he's doing. And with that, the voice has overstepped, and the other inner voice, my voice, well, not entirely my voice, it's stronger, more confident, answers that he does very decisively not know what he's doing, and probably never has. That he just gets a vague idea, the merest hint of an idea, and then just goes all in, goes balls deep. A phrasing he probably would hate, which adds a hint of malicious glee to the voice. And consequences be damned that he leaves all he leaves in his wake is chaos and destruction, a trail of broken glass and mangled bodies. And I want to use the strength of that voice, the well-constructed arguments, and I want to tell him to stop for the night, that this has become farcical, and we should just sit down and try to get some sleep, or even pull out the phone, overriding his complaints, because I am quite literally saving his worthless life. I want to scream and punch him in the face, payback for the tree. I want to do so many things, I can feel it bubbling inside me, ready to erupt. And apparently something must have spilled out, because he stops, he turns around, half-cocked smile on his smug face, not saying anything, just looking at me, as if he was asking me, daring me to go ahead, and I look him in the eye and open my mouth to let out the wrath, to smite him down with divine justice. And then I avert my gaze, look down, hair falling over my eyes, trickle of blood as well, tasting iron in my mouth, salt on my lips, and I mumble something so quietly I can hardly hear it myself, and he puts his hand on my shoulder, pulls me into a hug, patting my head. The condescending asshole has the gall to pat my head like I'm some sort of cat, and I want to knee him in the balls, but my legs are buckling, and I don't know if they are being weak because of him or because of the exhaustion, and that is what I'm going with. And then the moment is over, and he barges away again. And it is all I can do to keep up, out of breath, numb from the cold and the pain, and with a giant gaping hole in my stomach, as we plunge ever deeper into the confusing, twisting maze of the woods, away from what little light the moon sheds, and ever deeper into the darkness. I'm running after him, even though I would have liked to stay, but he's leaving, and he has the key to the flat, so I have to join him. He has already left the small bar, and I am still struggling to get into my coat and through the door. We might have left the dorm, but it made sense to keep rooming together, and I'm sure that was a good reason why we only got one key, but I can't for the life of me not remember what that reason was. A tiny voice reminds me that the only reason is because he wants to keep controlling me, and I keep going along with it like the absolute fool that I am. He's muttering angrily, of course he is, because that is just what he does. We can never just go out for drinks in peace unless it's just the two of us. If there's anyone else present, it always ends this way, with him storming off angrily, muttering to himself, and me rushing behind him, trying to catch up. I will have to console him eventually once he has calmed down. He will calm down, of course, by berating me, as if it were my fault that he's an insufferable asshole. We have all run out of friends, and every new acquaintance we make only lasts for so long, until something he says or does pushes them over the edge, and instead of apologizing, navigating the situation, he doubles down until they either leave or he storms off a tornado, leaving nothing in his wake but debris and ruined dreams. And I'm always there as well, a scavenger picking through the remains, a ghoul following this absolute force, an acolyte to an angry deity. Even in my metaphors, even when I want to be angry at him, I keep idolizing him, and it's driving me mad. At least whenever I manage to notice it. In moments like this, when I was having a good time and laughter, inside where it is warm and there's company, and I have to trade it for the cold and the rain that's coming down in sheets and the miserable loneliness that comes from being best friends with a self-obsessed egomaniac narcissist. There is a small spark of rebellion deep inside my mind, a small voice I have never heard before sounding like liquid flowing hatred. It tells me that I do not have to follow him, that I do not have to stand out here and get drenched, that I do not have to room with someone who does not appreciate me, that I do not have to suffer this shit anymore, that I should just turn around, go back inside, get drunk, and find new friends, maybe even a romantic partner. Someone who appreciates me, someone who listens to me, for me. Someone who doesn't just see me as a mirror that reflects them back what they want to see, but someone who can see me as my own painting. The steps, harsh, angry steps, suddenly stop. His voice barks out like a gunshot. You coming or what? The door falls closed behind me, cutting me off from the warmth and the joy inside, and I step out into the darkness, all alone except for him. I managed to dodge a low-hanging branch that I swear still has my blood dripping from it. There are a million tiny bruises and scratches all along my body. My clothing hangs in shards and tatters, the pain only barely registering over the numbness from the cold, exhaustion and hunger making anything beyond staring downwards and putting one foot in front of the other nearly impossible. At this point, I actually have to wonder if he's even human, because he does not show any signs of slowing down or stopping. I cannot see him between the darkness and the rain that has begun to fall, but I can hear him ever moving forward, ever pushing onward. He has not looked back once since I broke my nose all those hours ago. Time has lost all meaning. The itch to pull out my phone simply to find out what time it is growing stronger, but I still cannot bring myself to do it. There is so much that little square in my back pocket could do. It does not only show time, it can also show us where we are, where we have to go. It can be used to call for help, and it even has a lamp that I can use to light my path. But if I use it, he's obviously gonna notice, and he's not gonna be thrilled about it. He specifically said to not bring any modern gadgets. He wanted this to be a fun weekend getaway, to detox and reset, to meditate, and eventually to create. I assume he mostly wanted to get blind drunk and throw paint at a wall or abuse an innocent slab of marble, and I still am not sure why we needed to go to the woods to do that. But I'm sure that he has his reasons. Of course, he also had planned on there being more than just the two of us. Maybe he even imagined a sort of commune of like-minded artists under his leadership, naturally. I wonder what drove the others away, whether it was the fact that he's an overly controlling tyrant or simply that he's a talentless hack. My money's on both. I wish I had brought my typewriter, but I can also type notes on my phone. At night, when he's sleeping or he's passed out from the alcohol, I can never show him what I create, because it just hurts too much when he inevitably makes fun of me for my airs and graces, for thinking that I can ever be anything more than his confidant, or more accurately, his batsman. Because as he likes to point out, every genius needs someone like me, a sniveling little weasel without ambition, without drive, without anything but an almost pathological, perverse desire to serve and to please. And in my micro moments, I think he is right. At all other moments, I know that he's the worst person I know, but at the same time, he's my only friend, the only constant in my life. I can't leave him. I'm stuck to him like flies to flypaper, like a mouse in a trap. I have stepped on a landmine and heard the click, and now I can never take off my foot without being blown to kingdom come, and I'm working up the courage to do it. There it is again, the overwrought metaphors, which I can never escape! One of the things he has chastised me for. I can never escape them, same as I can seem to escape him. I am inside his gravity well, being drawn down, a traveler through space, alone and confused, which will eventually succumb to the poisonous atmosphere of the planet that has caught me. I have been standing here for the past 30 minutes or so, watching him read the manuscript, trying to gauge his reaction, looking for a sign, any sign of what he thinks. It has taken me a lot of courage to show him what I've created. He's my best friend. He's an artist with a unique vision and an extreme amount of passion for the craft. Of course I value his opinion, and besides, it's not like I have anyone else he could show it to. The small voice whispers because he has driven all of them away. You have thrown your lot in with him, and now you're stuck here in this dead end, and he has blocked the exit. It is only a short story. Why is it taking him so long to read it? It is also easily my favorite thing I've ever written, so showing it to him fills me with equal parts elation and dread. Maybe more dread, actually. He's finished, he puts the pages away. Involuntarily, I hold my breath, and I hate myself for it. Then, like the swing of the executioner's axe, he delivers his judgment on my story. A story I have spent months writing, perfecting, polishing. He kills it with a single sentence, and then he just keeps on talking, at some point stopping to discuss the story in particular and just generally making fun of me. And to top it all off, he reminds me that everything I do ends in failure and disappointment, and that all I'm good for is to pick up his laundry and buy his groceries, to clean after him and listen to him talk, to tell him what he needs to hear, and to always be by his side. And he reminds me that he helps me to rise up to be the best version of myself, that he's my only friend, and that without him and outside of him, I am nothing and I have nothing. And I just stand there and nod and bite my lip and swallow hard and try my best not to cry, even though I can feel the tears stinging in my eyes, hot and treacherous, and I hate him, but not as much as I hate myself. And when he's finished, we go outside, taking with us a packet of cigarettes and a half-full bottle of vodka, and we drink and smoke, and then we pour some of the alcohol on the pages and use the smoldering remnants of the cigarettes to light them on fire, and it's mostly a symbolic gesture. And we just make conversation, and he's nice and full of life and wit, and I keep going along with it. And at the same time, there is the small voice, the voice that is made of liquid hatred, and it just wants to take the bottle and bash his brains in, and I don't give in, but that night I cry myself to sleep, quietly, so he won't hear it and make fun of me. There is a sound in front of me now, a crashing and breaking, and I realize that he has fallen into a ravine, maybe even a gorge. It sounded bad. It sounded painful. I stop, a complicated process that involves getting my mind and my feet and the rest of my body to coordinate enough through the numbness and the exhaustion and everything else, but I manage to get to a standstill before I follow him down. It sounds like he's hurt. He has stopped muttering to himself, he's cursing loudly, and it sounds like he is in great pain. There is a smile that wants to play around my lips, but I manage to suppress it. I pull out my phone, turn on the light, shine it down. He's lying there flat on his back, his body bent at unnatural angles. Between the weak glow of my phone light and the distance and the shadows, he looks mostly dead. If he wasn't shouting obscenities between yelps of pain, one might even imagine him dead at the bottom of an actual grave. Dead and soon to be buried by the leaves, never to return. Feeding the plants and the trees, feeding the scavengers of the woods, for the first time in his life actually making a difference. He notices me, notices that I'm holding a phone, and he immediately starts making demands. He's not asking me for help, not begging or pleading. He's outright demanding that I climb down, that I call help with the phone I brought. He's making fun of me for being addicted to technology, but at least my weakness has proven useful for once, and I just stand there and look at him. Imagine him dead and gone, frozen and buried by leaves, and now the smile is playing around my lips. I am still cold and hungry, but the numbness is slowly starting to lift, and I feel like I could make it out of the woods with a map if I just started walking. He's beyond help. And now another voice cuts through, asks me where I would go, what I would do without him, that I have nothing and am nothing outside of my relationship for him, that I can't exist if not for him, and he's screaming at me, "Don't just fucking stand there with your mouth open looking like a fucking brain-dead fish! Fucking do something to help me, you dumb fuck! This really fucking hurts!" And almost automatically I begin to pick out a path to get down into the ditch without hurting myself too much, and suddenly the slithering voice of my hatred screams into my ear like the wrath of God and asks me why I pushed him down. I didn't push him, he fell, it was dark and he was tired. If I now am just gonna go rescue him, and even if I didn't push him, the voice kinda has a point. And he's still screaming, and I pull my arm back and just throw the phone down, aiming vaguely in his direction, and then I turn around and start to walk, hearing him behind me, and now he's begging. Now he's pleading, but it is too late. I have made a decision. No, I have made my decision. And I walk, not feeling anything. And I know that I am not out of the woods yet, but I just hope that the sunlight of the new day will find me alive.